How y'all doing? This is a video response to a vlog off Suvarenee's blog post that she did a few days ago. She tells a story about how she was studying over at the coffee shop about, shock, various types of shock since she's studying for nursing school. Then she receives a different kind of shock of a person coming up to her and introduces himself by saying, "You're not the most attractive person in the room, but there's some energy emitting off you that makes you want to talk to her." Of course, she blows him off by, saying what he means by energy, which she's thinking of that physics means that it's something that causes something to work. And he's probably thinking like auras and stuff. Kind of makes you wonder how a guy comes to think like that anyway. Well, at the end of the video, she says that, that she wants people to understand, the meaning of something before they go ahead and use it the way they did. Unfortunately, I think that's exactly what happened. Here's what I mean. When people think energy, most people, they may learn it in grade school, but not in a strict scientific sense. It's just something they learned, and through the use of colloquially speaking to each other in various forms of how the word energy is used, it ends up changing and altered and with stuff added that has nothing to do with it in a strict scientific sense. We know that in physics that energy is something that causes things to perform some form of work. You could apply electricity to something, you could get light. You can add light to solar panels and get get electricity through that and what have you. But also, when you think about energy, some people think it's something of energy that's not physical matter. It's something kind of intangible, but yet it does something. And again, with colloquial speak, we have people that use energy to, let's just say you feel motivated by someone speaking or with your own thoughts, and you feel energized. Again, here's the use of that energy, using that word, and it does perform work. And then some people use something like that to explain their pseudo-knowledge idea about psychic energy, spiritual stuff. If you're a religious or spiritual person and you believe in souls, well, soul is not a physical something that, that is observed. Say if it's not physical, we think, oh, it's got to be a form of energy. So that kind of gets lumped in with the use of energy among the masses. And it's not just in that field either. Pop culture permeates that. Science fiction, definitely. In the science fiction series from the 90s, Babylon 5, there's a race of aliens called Borlons that evolved out of their physical bodies. And besides getting into an encounter suit, which is the only way they physically act with with their environment, when they're out of their encounter suit, they're just beings of what is described as pure energy. It's just kind of funny. So we think energy as energy itself. It's like energy is its own thing. Where the truth of it is, energy is just something that performs work. The source of energy is comes from either electricity, the flow of electrons, radiation, breakdown of atomic particles. Maybe not properly worded there, but wind, which is just gas. Again, something you cannot hold like a solid object. So, we utilize wind that we can feel or sense. And again, we kind of badly logically associate that with something we feel in our emotions or something like that. There's a lot of bad ways of doing this. But wind can be utilized and then translate that into a different source of energy to perform work of what we want. But a lot of times, without people realizing it, we tend to talk about energy as if it's something in of itself. It's like energy is energy. They may not realize that, but I listen to some people who speak like this, and it's like, wow, they may not. That's one way they may not know what they're talking about. And by the way, sorry if this sounds kind of, not very well articulate there. Just don't. It's kind of hard to really guess how a person can accumulate all this. If you make an exact way, at least with this individual in particular. But you could if you listen to people and listen to television, bad ideas spread around, and think of how a person can pick and choose, and not understanding something in the first place, and then picking and choosing what they think is related, and you can see where they kind of go way off field. Just look up spirit science, so you can see how it goes way off an extreme end. But there's always a sort of general ground that people can misunderstand as well. That's not saying that everybody's stupid about science. It's just that we're not all equally educated. If a kid who understands just partial physics in high school and yet doesn't go to higher education, or if he does, has nothing to do with physics at all, he may barely remember the base definition and only can tell you when asked what energy is based on how he has used it and how others have used it all around him. That's kind of a problem. So as I said, you are right that people should know what something is in order for them to use it in conversation and such. But I think in this case, it's exactly what happened. So yeah, a guy comes up to suvarenee and then tries to strike up a conversation and tries to say that there's some energy producing from her that he finds attractive. What actually happened is that he made an observation of her, I'm guessing through his own eyes, which is picking up the light that's bouncing off of her, and then into his eyes, and then he starts to, that part of his observations of not just her physical being, but also through her characteristics, how she probably speaks to other people who are passing by, or what have you, and he's putting together what he sees what he finds a very attractive woman, and tries to strike up a conversation of her. So there is energy being used, just unfortunately he had no knowledge of what real energy was involved and what was actually happening. Light bouncing off of her, so it was bouncing off of her, it wasn't coming from her. And then when it hits his eyes, his brain starts to work with his observation, so there's biochemistry going on, there's certain energy level states involved in that, enzymes and such. And then, if you see suvarenee here, I'll put a link down below, you can see she's very attractive, so how attractive he is, I'll let you insert a loose joke right here. And he now tries to strike up a conversation, fat chance, and, well, he botched it big time. And seeing that his lack of understanding what a basic energy is and how he botched that conversation, let's all be glad, let's just hope, anyway, that he's not an engineer or an architect. Well, thanks for listening to this almost incoherent rant here. Just want to give my 2 cents worth to her as always. And thanks for watching. Not the most attractive person in the world? What kind of bullshit, low standard, fake celebrity standards does he have?